This is a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. I'm your host, J. Cal, and we've got some new content coming from the NWA today. And I'm super excited about that, guys. It's been a long time coming. The NWA has been effortlessly working on their plan B, C, D, E, F, and G, considering that the world has gone upside down with this pandemic. This COVID-19 has certainly put the screws to everybody, guys. And it's not just professional wrestling, it's everybody. I'm feeling the effects of it. I'm sure you guys are too. I know some of my friends, some of you guys here right now, you lost your job. And I'm sorry about that. I know my job, my work is slowing down. It's rough, guys. It's really, really rough. The best thing we could do is try to stay positive, flatten the curve, and try to find stuff that makes us happy. Today I planted a peach tree. And I know it sounds goofy, but goddamn, I was excited to do it. And pardon my French, I'm just really hyped right now, guys. I planted a peach tree, something I've always wanted at my house, and we finally got one planted. So I'm very excited about that. Dug the hole myself. I felt very accomplished. I'm sure lots of people have done it before, but it was very uplifting, and I'm jacked up from it. I'm all hyped up on Mountain Dew. No, I'm hyped up on Sugar-Free Rockstar, not a promotional partner of the Alliance Guys podcast or the pre-party, but I'm happy to have it. And so I'm seeing your comments, and Roscoe, I'm very sorry to hear that. I don't know, man. I'm really sorry. I hope that you find some of the content that is being created for fans of the NWA to be uplifting, or at least time-killing. Unlike other podcasters for the NWA, I will never say don't watch somebody else. There's a lot of other podcasts out there. This is the NWA by my good friend Gary Horn. I recommend checking out what he's doing. You might even want to check out Adam Rotella's NWA Coffee. He does that, I think, almost every morning. I don't really watch the show, but I recommend you guys check it out if you're desperate for some content or just a distraction. Because I know that's what helps me is trying to be distracted during these times. And we are streaming both on YouTube and on Twitch. Excuse me, not Twitch. Instagram Live. Something else that was pretty awful last week. David Marquez was so kind to spend some time with us last week on Instagram. We did an Instagram live chat, and I hope to do more chats like that. It'll be awesome, and I'm really hoping that we can do stuff like that. Unfortunately, half the video didn't save, so that live stream was only really live for the people who were there watching. Then Dave and I tried to recreate magic and do the same interview on Friday, which, honestly, believe it or not, different interview, great content, a lot of interesting NWA information, stuff I didn't even know, and it didn't record. That was very ball-bustingly sad. It's one of those things where my goal is to always make sure that you guys are getting the best quality product, and I blew it. But fear not, everyone, because Dave has agreed to come back and do maybe sometime next week. And oh my gosh, he was telling me all kinds of stuff. Did you know that Billy Corgan wasn't the first person to try to buy the NWA? In fact, by my estimations, there were at least 4 other people. 5 if you include Impact. But we'll get in that with Dave a little bit later. The other thing, something I want to try to do every week now, is I want to talk about some of the NWA champions from the past, NWA World Heavyweight Champions, because a lot of you guys who just started tuning in within the last year, last 2 years, since the 10 pounds of gold, you're getting a lot of great content. You're getting a lot of great stories being told by David Lagana, Billy Corgan, Nick Aldis, Tim Storm, but there's so much rich history within the last 20 years that is veritably unknown because it wasn't broadcasted by the WWE. It wasn't broadcasted by New Japan Pro Wrestling, but there are so many matches and so many stories and so many personalities that kind of got forgotten about. And I don't blame you guys for not knowing, because the internet, as vast and grand and awesome as it is today, back then you couldn't just throw a wrestling match online. Back then we had to trade tapes. How many of you guys traded tapes? Raise your hand. And so you couldn't find some of these hard to watch matches. The NWA World's Heavyweight Title Tournament didn't make it. Dave talked about that, and again, we'll have him on at another point in time so we could talk more about that. But the person I want to talk about today is a guy that's very near and dear to my heart. One, because we share the same birthday, and two, because I got to see him wrestle quite a bit out in Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. And I'm talking about none other than the Shooter, Brent Albright. Now, Shooter Brent Albright, if you guys don't know, he was the second world champion post the Impact and NWA split. Now, to be specific, guys, the NWA actually was the one that broke that relationship with TNA. Now, when I say broke, I don't mean that they were the cause of the disruption, but the agreement was supposed to be for 25 years. They were 5 years into that 25-year agreement, and the NWA finally was fed up with not being able to book the world champions, not being able to get the title defenses that they wanted, or when they did, having so many hurdles to jump over. Again, stay tuned for the David Marquez interview. We'll take a lot of information about that, and we'll be redistributing that. But Brent Albright was a guy who actually accomplished a lot in a small amount of time. Let me get a drink of my Rockstar. We're not endorsed yet, but hey, anything's possible. So, Brent Albright, some of you guys might remember him more as Vinny Valentino, trained at APW, All Pro Wrestling. Now, if you guys don't know All Pro Wrestling, that's kind of where, before there was a Ring of Honor, that was like the big hotspot for professional wrestling in the independents. In fact, if you guys watch the Beyond the Mat documentary, with where it was kind of headlined by The Rock and Mankind and the chair shots and all that stuff, there was a lot of details about APW and Roland Alexander and All Pro Wrestling. And there was a group of core guys there: Michael Modest, Donovan Morgan, Bison Smith, Sarah Del Rey, a guy named Apollo Khan or Hook Bomberry, who were kind of more familiar out here in SoCal. Former WWE wrestler Simon Gotch, who went by Ryan Drago. They all kind of trained at this APW school, and then the APW and this school kind of broke apart to form Pro Wrestling Iron. But back in 1998, Vinny Valentino, a.k.a. Brent Albright, was training at APW. And what this meant was there was a lot of opportunity for Shooter Albright. It gave him an opportunity to get the matches, some of the premier matches in APW, but it also set him up to tour Pro Wrestling Noah back in 2003. So being in Pro Wrestling Noah, I mean, not only was he getting this more of a Kings Road style of wrestling, the strong style, if you will, but he was being trained by some of the best. Again, Donovan Morgan and Mike Modest, who that's where he finished his training at. And then, after a couple of years of being in APW, he was signed to work for Ohio Valley Wrestling. And at the time, Ohio Valley Wrestling was not associated with the National Wrestling Alliance. And that kind of got Shooter Albright rocketed to the WWE in 2006, and he went by the name of Gunner Scott, as some of you have already pointed out here in the chat. And he was supposed to be like a protege of Chris Benoit. Now, of course, that never worked out, guys. And sometimes gimmicks in wrestling in the WWE don't pan out. Brent Albright, who was a very competitive wrestler, very quality wrestler, not unlike Scotty Goldman in the WWE, just couldn't get over that gap, couldn't bridge that gap. So he was released by the WWE. Some people would take that and hang up their hat and said, we had a career, we did what we wanted to, and now we're done. He wrestled in Japan, wrestled for the WWE. I mean, that's pretty good stuff right there. So, no one would be shocked or surprised if that would have been a career for Brent Albright. But no. Brent Albright ended up in Ring of Honor. And around the end of 2006, he was working with Ring of Honor, and at that point, he was part of the Hangman 3 with Adam Pearce. And I'm sorry, I just can't remember the other guy's name who was in that group. It's just on the tip of my tongue. I can't remember it. If you guys think of it, leave it in the comments, and I'll get to it in a minute. At that time, in 2007, Brent Albright started getting dates in Oklahoma, his home state, wrestling for NWA Oklahoma. He was the NWA Universal Champion, which is basically the NWA Oklahoma Champion. He also held the NWA Oklahoma Championship. But that led to the 10 pounds of gold reclaiming the glory tournament, because the NWA had just split from Impact Wrestling. So you had this tournament that was being featured around the country, featuring some of the top names of the independent wrestling scene. At the time, it was Brent Albright. It was Claudio Castagnoli. It was Darren Young from the WWE, but back then going by Fred Sampson. It was Daniel Bryan, back then going by the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson. Shane Hagedorn, thank you. It was also guys like Osamu Nishimura, who was in the last tournament to crown an NWA World Champion. It was also Scrap Iron Adam Pearce. It was also a bevy of talented individuals, Damian Wayne, Chad Parham. The list goes on, but more importantly, we're talking about Brent Albright. So Brent Albright gets his first victory in the tournament over Osamu Nishimura, who was the veteran, who was in the tournament when they crowned Chris Candido as champion. And then he defeated Darren Young, from who would eventually become in the WWE, but back then he was Fred Sampson, who's kind of mainstay on the Northeast. Then he defeated Claudio Castagnoli. Now, at that point, you could say that, wow, Albright had a pretty tough bracket to get to the finals, where he loses to Scrap Iron Adam Pearce when Daniel Bryan has to come into the ring to do some of the officiating. Now, Daniel Bryan was supposed to be in the finals, being injured by not Osamu Nishimura. Oh, gosh, I forgot his name. He was a former Ring of Honor World Champion. Sorry, guys, my brain is not working so well right now. Daniel Bryan had an eye patch on, and he counted the 1, 2, 3 on Albright when the match could have really gone either way. And that created the first world's heavyweight champion in Scrap Iron Adam Pearce post the Impact split. Now, at that time, okay, Pearce is champion, but the chase didn't end there. Brent Albright, still working with NWA promotion, still working in Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, or NWA Hollywood, or NWA Pro Wrestling, whatever you want to call them, was still getting opportunities to face Pearce, but ultimately won the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship on August 2nd, 2008. It was at the Hammerstein Ballroom in New York City, of all places. The place where they used to shoot Monday Night Raw. And it was at Ring of Honor's Death Before Dishonor. And what people don't know about that, and this didn't come out until the interview I had with Marquez that kind of faded away into obscurity, Kerry Silken came onto that video and was a part of the chat, not on the video, but leaving comments during the interview, and he mentioned that match between Adam Pearce and Brent Albright for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship was his match of the year in 2008. A lot of people at the time were very scared of what the NWA and Ring of Honor were going to do back then in 2008, and that match was considered to be match of the year for Ring of Honor by the promoter, by the owner of the promotion. And so then the next step in all of this is, of course, our buddy Brent Albright, the shooter, ends up defending against, at the time, Pro Wrestling Noah ace, I guess you could call him, Go Shizaki. Defeated Go Shizaki in Ring of Honor. Defeated Adam Pearce in Mexico. Defeated Rico Valentino in his home state of Oklahoma. But at Glory by Honor, September 20th, 2008, he returns the favor. Adam Pearce defeats him in Philadelphia, of all places. And the NWA World Heavyweight Championship is now never in the reach of Brent Albright again. Now, their feud continued on, and they did matches all across the Southwest. There was the bull rope match. Albright was basically Pearce's number one opponent for most of the first run of that NWA World's Heavyweight Championship. He never actually got an opportunity to challenge for the title again. And then, of course, around 2011, Albright retired from the sport of pro wrestling. But I want you guys to remember who Brent Albright was and the importance. Again, he was the first world champion to be crowned in a Ring of Honor ring. Now, that's something that you think about today, that could happen again. That could happen again when the NWA and Ring of Honor continues its partnership, when you've got our World's Heavyweight Champion, Nick Aldis, coming to Ring of Honor to potentially face PCO, to potentially face Marty Scurll. If they don't meet up at a Crockett Cup this year, maybe that match takes place in Ring of Honor. What if the world champion would change hands again in Ring of Honor? Just something to think about, guys. And again, the history of the NWA, I think, is one of its most charming and attractive traits. And that's one of the reasons why I continue to boast about the NWA, because of the long historic history and tradition. And I love that stuff, guys. And I hope you enjoy me going on and on and on about the history and tradition, because I think the NWA, without its history and tradition, is just another wrestling promotion. I mean, there's a reason why Billy Corgan went out of his way to buy the NWA instead of just starting the Billy Corgan Wrestling Federation. I mean, I don't know if you guys know this, but Billy Corgan had a wrestling promotion before. He owned a wrestling promotion, I think it was called Rebellion Wrestling or something like that in Chicago. So there it is. There's a little bit of history. We're 20 minutes into this podcast, and I need some water. I hope you guys know by now that this is a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. You can follow us on all socials. We got you on Facebook. Okay, we got you on Twitter. We got you on YouTube. We got you on Instagram. We also are on TikTok and Tumblr. And we just love talking NWA, the rich history. I hope you guys subscribe and click and follow all those social medias. Now, I want to get to your comments because, of course, this show is nothing without you guys. Let's make this perfectly clear. This show would suck if you guys didn't come here each and every week. I guarantee it. You guys pump me up, and I hope in return I pump you up. But let's talk some NWA, huh? Let's see what you guys have to say. Roscoe D says, it's time for the party. Hell yeah, baby. Lamb says, it will be time. Yep. Roscoe saw that I was in the house. Yes, sir. Roscoe, sorry about your job, man, and I hope things don't stay bad for long. The Scott Hall quote, it fills me up with a lot of intestinal fortitude right now. Bad times last, but bad dudes last longer. Oh, I blew that one. Tough times don't laugh, but tough dudes do. There it is. All right. Redemption? Maybe? I don't know. Lamb says it was too nice by mentioning other podcasts and live things. Lamb, here's the thing, right? Rising waters benefit everybody, okay? I had a falling out with Adam Rotella. I used to consider him a buddy, a peer. I like him still. We have a difference of opinion, and that's okay. He's still talking about what I'm talking about. We're all talking about the NWA. And if you guys don't know by now, that's paramount for me. Whether you're watching me or him or Gary or whoever else, the NWA kid, I don't even know if she's still doing podcasts, but if you are, that's awesome. I just want to help promote the NWA. I've been doing this probably longer than anybody else. I've been podcasting about the NWA since 2009. I've had my website since 2007. And really, I was a part of the NWA message board from 2006. In fact, I was employed by the NWA to help moderate the message board. When I say employed, I mean I wasn't really involved. I didn't get a paycheck or anything. I just helped moderate the board. I wrote articles for the website, and that's long before my work at SoCal Uncensored or TheAllianceBlog. In fact, this is actually my 4-year anniversary of walking away from being the managing editor of SoCal Uncensored. I did that for, almost 10 years as well. So I love the NWA, and you guys should know this. So I'm going to help support whoever wants to help support the NWA, period. Um, no, I did not see Marquez in that video guide outfit. I meant to, but I just was busy. That's what Roscoe was asking. Um, Dave and I have a great friendship. I've known Dave since he set foot in Southern California and returned from World Legion Wrestling. In fact, when he was still doing stuff with Disney, I was at the 2002 World Series for my California Angels when David Marquez was working for Disney filming stuff. And I literally saw Marquez in the crowd with the camera and a crew. And what's crazy is I knew him from Epic Pro Wrestling. And that was a studio television show where Excalibur, you guys know Excalibur from All Elite Wrestling. If you watch it, he's the guy with the mask. He would refer to Dave Marquez as Gucci glasses. And that's what I knew David Marquez as for about the first 2 years that I knew he existed. So when he was at Angel Stadium during the World Series victory, I said, "Oh my God, look, it's Gucci glasses." So that's just a little offhanded story about my good friend Dave. But I would say we've been pals for a long time. He's always been kind to this website. He's always given his time. He's given me special access, NWA Hollywood, Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. Again, he's the reason why I went to China to be a part of that historic match that they re-aired last, I guess, Sunday on Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. So, yeah. Jeez, J. Kyle has the scoop. Yeah, Roscoe, when Dave Marquez told me that, I didn't know. He told me a lot of things, and I hope he is as candid as he was last time and doesn't guard himself, because there was a lot of great information in that interview, and it was just gone. So Michael Manning says, "Hey people, sorry to hear didn't record again. Was looking forward to that." Michael, we're gonna do it again. A third time's a charm. I know what I did wrong the last time, so I'll make sure not to do it again. But we'll get something up probably. Expect it on Monday of next week. That's my goal. But if not, it'll be soon. Jake, how I'd love to see you talk about Ray Gonzalez. I keep seeing a photo of all the championships with him on it, but he isn't officially recognized as a former NWA World Champion. Gary Horn is going to get mad at me for this one. Marty Bell isn't going to like me either, because this was a thing with the Dominican Republic where their guy won a title and they were so proud and so happy in this moment, but in reality Flair dropped the title so that it wouldn't cause a riot. It wasn't part of the plans. It wasn't booked by the NWA. Therefore, it didn't happen. Now, I get it. You guys all, like, well, not you guys, but the people who are like, hey, no, that title changed hands. If the NWA doesn't officially recognize it, it didn't happen. Look, there's pictures of Hulk Hogan with the NWA World Heavyweight title. He was never world champion. Those were called dusty screw jobs to send the fans home happy. The AWA had Hulk Hogan win the world title and only to give it back to Nick Bockwinkel. And it didn't happen. Those weren't actual titles. So I don't count those belts as victories, and anyone who does, I think you're just messing with the history, the rich history of the NWA. More of your comments. We're also here on Instagram live, so you'll see me look away. It's because I'm looking at that camera too to see what those guys are saying. And of course, we've got a lot of our friends on there. Big Al has joined us. Kerouac. Kerouac actually designed a logo that I'm going to be debuting soon for a new t-shirt. I hope you guys are into retro video games, because I think this is a nice throwback, and I hope you guys will appreciate it. Back to more of your comments here on YouTube. We've got trading tapes. Lamb trading tapes. He never did that. Lamb, that's because you're a baby, brother. I love you, man, but you're a youngster. You didn't. Do you even own a VCR, Lamb? Come on, you probably had a DVD player. Michael Manning said trading Smashing Pumpkin CDs. I mean, I downloaded them from LimeWire, so shame on me. Gunnar Scott in the WWE. Haha, he was a protege of Chris Benoit. Yes, he was. Roscoe says, I haven't seen it, but an Ohio Valley apparently has an awesome rivalry between CM Punk. I heard about that too. I really wasn't following Ohio Valley at that time, so I'm not really sure. I was following the Southern California wrestling scene, and I never really got to see Shooter Albright out this way, because when that Pro Wrestling Iron APW split happened was right around the same time that Albright got signed to Ohio Valley. So we didn't get to see that influx of talent come out to SoCal. A lot of the pro wrestling iron guys did come out here. Mike Modest, like I said, Donovan Morgan, Apollo Khan, Hook Bomberry, Sarah Del Rey, Bison Smith. But they never came out to SoCal with APW guys, so it never happened. Roscoe reminded me it was Shane Haggerty. Sorry if I'm not pronouncing his name right. Roscoe says, was Damian Wayne a big name in the Indies back then? Seems like an odd placement. Roscoe, see, the thing about Damian Wayne is he wasn't a big indie guy, but at the time, he was working in some of the more well-known promotions. FIP, and I think that stands for your independent pro. I could be mistaken, or Florida Independent Pro. Whatever it was kind of an offshoot of Ring of Honor. At the very least, it was considered a sister promotion. So when talent was in FIP, they usually were working Ring of Honor as well. Damian Wayne had a few dates in Ring of Honor. He was never a Ring of Honor guy, but he had a lot of dates there. But what Damian Wayne did have was a tenure of working with the National Wrestling Alliance, whether it be in New Jersey or in Virginia or in Tennessee. Wayne traveled a lot and was one of those guys. He was a former North American champion. He was a former national champion. In fact, when Adam Pearce left the NWA, everybody thought that Damian Wayne was going to be the heir apparent to the 10 pounds of gold. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. And maybe we'll talk more about that some other day. But I heard a message board was responsible for that. Who books a wrestling show based on the opinions of a message board? My message board has been around for a long time. Okay, Pierce always says that Albright is his favorite match he has ever had. Yeah, absolutely. Roscoe reminded me it was Morishima, that's right. He's the one that brutalized the entire Ring of Honor roster, including knocking out Brian Daniels' eyeball. Michael Manning says both you and Marquez could record yourselves with your phone at the same time. See, Michael, what we started to do was the first night we did we were going to try to do a Facebook Live and join the conversation. For whatever reason, we couldn't do that. I don't think the feature's allowed anymore. So we went on Instagram, and the idea was on Instagram we were going to do that live chat. Then I was going to pull the audio from that, put that up on our Anchor podcast channel, and then we were going to try to take the video and do something with it to make it bearable on a regular YouTube style format. But it didn't save. And then the next time we did a Skype interview, and your boy forgot to hit record. Pure and simple. I fucked up. I take it. I own it. And I learned from it. Roscoe says Bloody Wars. Roscoe says he wants to see Brody King versus Aldis on pay-per-view. Now you're talking, buddy. Brody King is my guy. I'd love to see that. Roscoe, thank you. I appreciate the kind words. DKM says I talk a lot. He's not wrong. I'm long-winded. My wife hates me for it, but hopefully you guys enjoy some of it. And the blog, yeah. Didn't know Billy Corgan owned a wrestling promotion at all. Yeah, I don't remember the name of the promotion, but it was headlined by guys like Rhino, Jay Bradley. That's why there's that tie with Jay Bradley and the NWA, even though he hasn't really worked regularly for them. He's kind of got ties to it. They also had Harry Smith, who was their champion. I want to say it was Retribution Pro or something like that. I don't know. Roscoe's laughing at something. I'm going to jump over here to our Twitch comment, Instagram comments, because there's some good stuff there. Kerouac says, I added some unrecognized names to my original Aldis drawing, and people messaged me for weeks after I fixed it. Yeah. See, that's the thing. You can't please everyone all the time, right, Kerouac? And the thing about it is, those champions were either recognized by the NWA or they weren't. So that means they are or they aren't. And in my opinion, if the NWA doesn't recognize them, then why should I? That's fantasy booking. Otherwise, why isn't Kurt Angle the champion? Because he wasn't recognized by the NWA. Why wasn't this guy? Because it wasn't recognized by the NWA. I mean, anyways, that's a whole other thing. And then Kerouac says, I miss being able to see Bryan Danielson in the Ring of Honor at a crapple 5 minutes from my house. Yeah, seeing Daniel Bryan, like, you know how many matches I saw that guy? In SoCal, there was this dream match of dreamed up by Gary Yap, and it was going to be Bryan Danielson, the American Dragon, taking on a guy from SoCal you guys may or may not remember, Super Dragon. And then the third man in that match was going to be Ultimo Dragon. And this was crazy. Everyone was so excited about this show, and it turns out the promotion never even booked a venue. And it never even happened. And Ultimo Dragon was here in the United States waiting for a payday. Guys did not get paid. There was so much animosity. It was such a clusterfuck. It was pretty awful. The closest thing we got to that was Ultimo Dragon versus American Dragon in a New Japan USA Tokon TV series that Dave Marquez produced. But of course that was never aired because at the time Ultimo Dragon had a 60-day no-compete clause with the WWE and was unable to be recorded, but he was. Somewhere Marquez has that, and maybe someday it'll see the light of day. Lamb over on Instagram said Skype is still a thing. Yes, Lamb, Skype is still a thing, and it works beautifully. If you guys seen the Alliance Guys podcast, that's what we're using. It makes things very easy. So more of your comments here on YouTube. NWA fans are greater than everyone else. I have a hard time arguing with you about that. Roscoe says, I didn't realize Marquez was doing wrestling and Disney. Yeah, Marquez's history is wrapped around Disney and pro wrestling. I mean, he was doing wrestling when he was like right out of high school. He was promoting events in San Bernardino, and he actually recorded those events. Those events exist somewhere on tape, and he teases that someday he'll put them out, but don't hold your breath for it. Michael Manning says he still hopes that Harry Smith shows up in the NWA. I think there would be nothing better than an NWA World's Heavyweight title match in the UK between Harry Smith and Nick Aldis. I think that would be amazing. I wished that it could be with World of Sport. However, I think that is no longer even in existence. So we'll see. But tell me when you live with Marquez. I missed it the first time. Sorry, Lamb. It was very impromptu. It was, hey, what are you doing? Nothing? You want to do a podcast? Shoot, let's do it. Roscoe says, how can someone win the world title but not get it recognized? If there's a pin, I don't get that. See, Roscoe, the thing is we do know that this is a work. We know pro wrestling's a work. It's a show. There are a lot of real elements to it, but sometimes, live stuff. Sorry, guys. Live events, they have to, you have to protect yourself. And Ric Flair was in a situation where things could have gotten really ugly. And instead of causing that riot, instead of potentially getting injured, he did the right thing and dropped the belt. Now, what the NWA probably could have done is just done a phantom switch somewhere else, or did a match in Atlanta or North Carolina, somewhere more safer for Flair, and he could have won the belt back. But again, they didn't plan on recognizing him as a champion, so that's why it didn't ever exist. They didn't count it. They didn't use it as a thing. DKM says lots of title changes got changed back. Absolutely. And it's up to the, if WWE says Hulk Hogan's title didn't exist, then who are we to... that's a bad argument. But, I don't know. I don't want to get into that right now. It's a little bit too much for me. Let's see. Lance says he started with VHS 2, but yeah, his first DVD was the Bret Hart DVD from 2005, so yeah, okay. Rossi says, do you know why the NWA National Women's Junior North American title weren't on TNA? For the simple reason that they weren't licensed. The idea was that TNA wanted controlling interest in the world title and the tag titles. They didn't care about any of the other belts. In fact, the reason why they didn't use the belts is they just didn't need to. They had their X Division title, which that wasn't an NWA belt, although it was called the NWA X Division title. That was always an Impact title. They didn't want to bring in Jarrell Clark, or they didn't want to bring in, I'm trying to think of Corey Williams. They had their own guys they wanted to use, and they didn't need a North American title, or, and that's the thing. The NWA has had so many titles in the past that it's kind of unnecessary. You know, when the invasion with the WWE, the NWA invading the WWE, they brought in the North American title first because they didn't know if they were going to be able to get severed. So they brought the North American title in because it was the highest ranking title outside of the World Heavyweight title, and it was a way to show some importance. They didn't bring every title into that. They brought the tag titles and the North American title. They didn't bring the national title or the U.S. tag titles or any of that other stuff. It just, there wasn't a need for it. And plus, that gave the NWA something to do with their own champions while waiting to try to get bookings with the world champions. So, anyone else hopes the NWA will update their website with title histories and matches to read about? I think it would be cool, but to be perfectly honest, Billy Corgan and Dave Lagana are just focused on what they're doing right in front of them. They don't neglect the past, but they don't necessarily focus on the recent past. They're focusing on the nostalgic past that everyone is connected to: the Ric Flairs, the Harley Races, the Luthez, the Gene Kaninskis, the Jack Briscoes, right? The Dusty Rhodes. They don't really care about the Adam Pearces, the Jeff Jarrett's, the Sabu, the Raven. Yeah, I mean, we don't ever hear about those names. We don't hear about Rob Conway. We don't hear about, we're hearing about Jack Stane now, but we're not hearing about Cahagas. We're not hearing about Blue Demon Jr., only when it serves a purpose. That's when you hear about it. You're not going to hear about Mike Rapada or Steve Corino. And Roscoe says it's a dream match. I think you're talking about Aldis versus Harry Smith, and I agree. I think that would be a dream match. Harry Smith is such a competent wrestler, and he's so damn good in the ring. I don't know how great of a promo he is. I'll be honest. I don't think I can remember a Harry Smith promo. And that's probably why he's not even being considered right now. But I think he'd be a perfect fit for the NWA if they were to reach out to him. Jason Newsom says, "What's up, Jay Cal?" And I say, "What's up, Jay New?" Kukushi says, they only mention a recent champion if it currently helps them today. Exactly. If it serves a purpose. And, if the NWA were to start doing shows in Mexico, then absolutely they're going to talk about Blue Demon. And of course they will. But it doesn't serve a purpose right now, so why bring it up? They're not going to talk about the Sheik. I mean, I wouldn't either, but they're not going to talk about Brent Albright. They're not going to talk about, like I said, Steve Corino or, the bevy of champions from Impact or the champions before Impact like Noya Ogawa or Shinya Hashimoto or Gary Steele. It just isn't going to happen. Chris Drummond said he was pissed when Damian Wayne never got the tag team titles. I mean, I was pissed too, but you got to blame his tag team partner. And that's another story we won't get into right now. But, if someone asks if you have a felony and you tell them no, you're stupid. Let's see. Harry Smith, you mean Davey Boy Smith Jr., right? Yes, Lamb, I do mean Davey Boy Smith Jr. I think his real name is Harry Smith. He's gone by Davey Boy Smith Jr. He went by D.H. Smith. I know him as Harry Smith, so that's where I keep going to. Kikuchi corrected me and said Davey Boy Smith Jr., who he watched wrestle for 50-plus minutes for the Dog Championship. Now, Dog used to be affiliated with the NWA, but they haven't been so for about, I'm going to say, 4 years? 6 years? Maybe 6 years? Yeah, Davey Boy Smith is pretty awesome. And then Terry McDermott says, that is why I like the magazines. They covered the history. Absolutely. And that's kind of what we tried to do here at alliance-wrestling.com. We talk about the history. Now, I'll be perfectly frank. If you guys go to the website right now, you're not going to see a whole lot, but that's because not a whole lot's happening. It's kind of hard to write about something that's just on indefinite pause. But tonight, we do get new content. Now, I know that's not crazy. It's not cause for celebration because I don't know how much new content we're going to get going forward. But tonight's the night that Kamile is supposed to break her silence. Now, a discussion I had off air with DKM and Jaden from the Alliance Guys podcast, who Jaden really doesn't appear anymore, but we still consider him an Alliance guy, and we do talk to him quite frequently. The question was posed, is Kamile being set up for failure? Because it's not like the women's roster is so deep. In my opinion, I don't think she's going to be exposed as green. I don't think she's going to be exposed as a lack of experience. I think that Kamile is basically going to get the Goldberg treatment of the women's division. Let me hold on a second, just read another comment. I don't know if Harry would be interested in competing for the NWA right now due to MLW and All Japan Pro Wrestling run, which was ruined by COVID-19. Yeah, I mean, that's true, Lamb. I don't know either. It's just fun to speculate. I think he and Nick Aldis would have a great chemistry, and especially if it was in the UK, I think that would be something significant, something monumental. Tell me another British-based wrestler who is more important than Nick Aldis in the state of pro wrestling today. And then tell me someone whose legacy isn't connected to the UK like Davey Boy Smith Jr. is. So, Kikuchi says he's not impressed with Kamile. And I hear that a lot from people. Well, I've seen her matches in tried and true pro wrestling. I don't think she's that good. Well, maybe she isn't. Okay, maybe she isn't. But she's also a lot bigger, stronger, more intimidating than most of the women on the roster. And I don't see her having 60-minute Broadways with everyone on the roster. I think they're going to start her off, and she's going to go through the women's division like, a hot knife through butter. She's just going to take them on one at a time and squash them until eventually she challenges, in my estimations, Melina for the women's championship. But we'll see. This is all speculation. I know nothing. Roscoe says, I wasn't the biggest fan of Melina getting a title shot and then not doing it. Lessens the picture, even if they are planning for Kamile to team with Melina to take on Rosa. See, I think it's different. I think as we come out of COVID-19, I think wrestling itself is going to look different. The state of wrestling around the world is going to look different. And I think, to much chagrin of a lot of pro wrestling fans, I think we're still going to have storylines, we're still going to have pro wrestling, but things will be done differently. I think the NWA's roster will expand. Now, we just saw, and I think it's fun to fantasy book what wrestlers will come to the NWA because of the releases from the WWE, but I don't think it's cool to speculate publicly on who's going to go where or how that's benefiting that promotion. But there were a lot of talented individuals who were recently released from the WWE who are going to be looking for work. And unfortunately, All Elite Wrestling can't hire everybody. New Japan Pro Wrestling can't hire everybody. Ring of Honor can't hire everybody. Impact Wrestling can't hire everybody, which means there's going to be a battle for the top spots everywhere. So I see the NWA getting better just like everyone else, because this exodus of talent from the WWE, I mean, that's enough to start a second wrestling promotion, or second or fourth or fifth, or whoever's keeping track. There's so much talent available that there's going to be opportunities. And so these opportunities are going to be realized by some people. And the NWA has a spotlight. Look, the commitment to work for the National Wrestling Alliance is almost like nothing. What are we talking about? 3 days a month at most? A pay-per-view and 2 TV tapings? I mean, until their touring schedule starts up or their TV taping schedule changes, that is easy money. And if you can get a contract with, say, MLW or Impact or Ring of Honor that allows you to work both the NWA and these shows, or, working in All Japan Pro Wrestling and working in the NWA, you're not really losing much bookings when you're in Japan. You come to the United States, do 3 matches, go back to Japan, or take on a full indie load and work NWA. I don't know how it all works because no one's really broken it down for me. I'm not exactly sure how the contracts for the NWA talent work, but it would have been a good time for the NWA to be up and running with so many talents available. Kikuchi says he hates that Jaden guy. You know, hate is a strong word, but I know a lot of people really don't like Jaden. He's a good guy. He's always treated me fairly, and I've enjoyed my friendship with Jaden for the last, I guess, close to 12 years, 14 years. And he's always been a bright spot as far as I'm concerned when it comes to pro wrestling. It's been very beneficial to the Alliance Guys podcast and alliance-wrestling.com. Therefore, when Jaden's involved with something, be it backstage duties for Dog Pro Wrestling or, you know, just working on the next cure for boredom, J Cal and the Alliance Guys, alliance-wrestling.com, will be there to support that guy. Roscoe says, I wish the biggest... Oh, we already said that. Luke Gallows took a photo of him training in front of the IWGP Tag Team belt today. I mean, look, why not? Gallows and Anderson in New Japan make so much sense. It would be stupid if it doesn't happen. And you know, I love Carl the Machine Gun Anderson. I hope he does come to the NWA. I hope he comes to United Wrestling Network. I want him to be the next United Wrestling Network World Champion. But he's also got to think of his family, and he was making a lot of money working for New Japan. He went to the WWE to work a lighter schedule. I mean, more frequently, but less traveling. He's not going to Japan. He actually gets to see his family a little bit more often. But he's going to do what's best for him and his family. And so if that's a limited deal in Ring of Honor or a full-time deal in New Japan, he's going to take it. And that's okay. But, yeah, there's a lot of talents. I mean, even the Revival, right? Or formerly the Revival. I guess they're going by the Revolt. They're talking about maybe a Crockett Cup appearance, and I'm all for that. I hope it happens. We'll see. Oh, and Chris just posted that. Heck, the Revival retweeted a Crockett Cup NWA post, and I'm hoping that happens too. I really do. My favorite will always be Jack Stane, and I hope he gets a push against Aldis. I don't know what capacity they're going to use Jack Stane, but I guarantee if he's on TV, he's going to wow people, regardless of where they put him on the roster. And think about this. He's the only guy on that show to have held the World's Heavyweight Championship, the Tag Team titles, and the North American Championship. National Championship. National Championship. So he's the Triple Crown. If he wins that TV title at any point, he'll be a Grand Slam champion, and he'll be the first one on that show to do so. And I love the guy. I love Jack Staines. If you guys know him, outside of the ring, he is an amazing human being. Inside the ring, he's terrifying as F. So, Captain Cat just got to the show. Hey, that's okay, man. Captain Cat, that's okay. Just watch the replay. Roscoe says, so did the Heat Seekers. I don't think you'll see the Heat Seekers, Roscoe. The episode is still coming with him versus Storm. I hope they cover it huge because of this pandemic. There's so much history there, and I hope they do too. More comments. Weird thing is that Caleb Kamile has a stable on the indie scene called The Revolt. Yeah, I mean, weird things have happened. Matt Connard, friend of the show, just recently lost his trademark on the Reaper. I mean, I don't know. I guess he never had it trademarked, but the guy from All Elite Wrestling, whose name I can't think of, I think it's Aaron. I can't think of his name either. Gosh. I have such a bad memory, guys. I'm sorry. When it doesn't come directly to NWA talent, I really don't remember. But he did work a little bit for Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, and in the WWE, he was the Perfect 10. I can't remember his name. Aaron something or other. I think he's married to Peyton Royce. But he recently filed for the trademark, the Reaper. So Matt Connard, who, again, a friend of the show, used to work a lot of the NWA promotions, been on the podcast quite a bit, lost his trademark, lost his likeness for that trademark because he never filed. But that's going to do it, guys. We are run out of time here, and as always, you guys are so awesome to pick me up. We have such a fun time. Sean Spears. Thank you, Sean Spears. Thank you, guys. Sean Spears. Thank you, Lamb. Thank you. Chris, thank you. Sean Spears. But again, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join me on this podcast, on this live stream. Remember, follow the Alliance Blog on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Tumblr, Twitch.tv. I heard we might start airing some matches from wrestling promotions on Twitch.tv. Maybe you guys will join us for that. And of course, we've got a new episode of NWA Power just literally minutes away. So as soon as this broadcast ends, make sure you leave a comment, a thumbs up, subscribe, all that good stuff. And then go over to the NWA YouTube channel and let's watch NWA Power for the first time in a long time. So until next time, guys, make sure you visit alliance-wrestling.com, and I'll see you at the matches. Y'all have a good night now.